If someone's gonna kill me, they're gonna do it the old-fashioned way and pick that shit.
They're gonna pick that or break the window like
Yep.
like I used to do.
Like a normal criminal.
Yeah. Normal psychopath.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD necessary.
We're the podcast that recaps all episodes of The Big Bang Theory, no spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
Make yourself a grasshopper, and enjoy the ride.
Hello there, Ryan.
Hi, Rob.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Amazing, because we just watched the Barbarian Sublimation.
It's a good one, too.
Oh my god. I think this is one of my favorite episodes.
I can see why. It's got a lot of Penny and Sheldon interacting, and some of the best stuff comes up when those two are left to their own devices.
Yeah, not only I love their interaction, but it's about video games, too.
Yeah.
That's something I love. You and me, we love video games, so... All right, for any new listeners out there, I'm Rob, and this is my co-host, Ryan. We are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder to everyone, this is Ryan's first time watching the Big Bang Theory, and I've seen the series several times. We also keep a point tally of how close Ryan is to being like a Sheldon. So, where are we at?
We are at 29 points of me being like Sheldon, 25 points that I act like somebody else. So right now, I am more Shelley than anybody else on the show. So, yeah. People have been telling me.
I know, and that's like collective of like every character, too. So.
Yeah. You would think it would be higher, but no. I mean, I'm struggling.
You are a Sheldon. So a little housekeeping before we dive into the episode. We have an Instagram account at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Ignore TikTok for now. Don't worry about that. We have an email at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. Feel free to send us any messages, a question, a comment, what you like about the next episode. Hopefully you're following along with us, and maybe you could throw out a suggested IQ point or something.
Yeah.
And also, if you give us a 5-star review, we'll give you a shout out. And Ryan and I were just talking about this. We actually have 2 new 5-star reviews.
I tell you, seeing them make my day. One of them is from friends, but the friends like the show, and I'm going to take the 5-star review. One of them is just a nice person out there who said something really nice, and that makes me feel really good.
Yeah, I feel really good about these. Like, it's really nice.
So I'll read one, and you want to read the other?
Yeah, sure. I'll let you go first.
All right, so I'm taking on Chicken Funguses. And it says, wow, just wow. I do not have a PhD. I do, however, have an absolute respect for the Big Bang Theory. Rob and Ryan really mail every episode. I seriously LOL to these guys. Host Ryan is really banging. I believe
Ryan.
He meant nail every episode, but something went wrong with the typo. And so now it's we mail every episode. If you want us to email these episodes, we can do it.
I mail it in every day.
And it's mailed.
Yep. Wax seal and everything.
Wax seal.
The next review is 5 stars. Thank you from AK Special 2019. They said, I've listened to other Big Bang Theory rewatch podcasts, and Rob and Ryan is by far the best. Their commentary is perfect, and all the deep dives are so interesting. Love it. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Seriously, we hear every now and then one of us pops open and we're like, we got another review. Yay! Our whole week's
instantly text each other. Like, oh my God, it happened.
It happened.
Well, thank you again. We really appreciate it. It's really nice of you, and we're glad that we're on the right track.
And I'm glad too
And
that we're getting the audio figured out. You know, we've upgraded our audio equipment, and people we've been getting some messages. I guess it's been a little while, but the people are saying that it sounds better now, and we've listened ourselves. So you know, we're trying to upgrade.
yeah, that's my bad.
I
So if
think
this
we're
is
all
your first
learning.
time, if this is your first time listening, this is the good audio. If you go back, all the bad audio is from me. I was just being cheap and dumb. So sorry about that.
We live and we learn. We're figuring it out.
Got my act together, got the new mic. Now we sound awesome.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Any emails? I haven't checked in.
I haven't seen any. I'm just seeing the regular same old
Stuff from Glassdoor.
Glassdoor and Twitter.
Don't know why. Somehow he ended up on their email list.
There's this song that my partner's been listening to. I can't remember the singer, but the song's called like I'm Doing My Best, and it's like a pretty recent song, I guess. But in it, she's talking about how she hates Twitter, and every time somebody says Twitter, one of the lines is one less app on my iPhone. And so every time I hear the word Twitter, I go, one less app on my iPhone. And everybody looks at me like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't even use Twitter, right? I'm like, never mind.
That's right, because it's one less app on my iPhone.
One less app on my iPhone. She doesn't even sing it like that. It sounds nothing like her, but...
Yeah, I have no idea what song you're talking about. Sorry. All right, so we kind of... Well, overall thoughts of the episode. Back to the episode. Overall thoughts.
I didn't have that many IQ points. Some stuff that I'm looking forward to talking to. And again, we were talking about that. It is Sheldon and Penny at their best together. And we also get Winkle in there a little bit just for some giggles.
Yeah, I love that Leslie has just been like reoccurring. Because every time they sprinkle her in, it's always gold.
She adds great stuff to it. And she is a very unique character, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that this was a really great episode. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. Really great Sheldon Penny interactions. I love video games, and I love that they're talking about video game addiction. I loved the kind of the overall arc of Penny's story of how she starts like getting into games, and then you just see her gradual decline of just like health and wellness. Just throughout, like,
her
the entire
wardrobe
episode.
goes downhill.
Yeah, just everything is just like, oh my god, what has happened to you? And I've known people that this has happened to, like, where it's like, oh my god, that person needs help.
With video games?
Yeah, like it was actually one of my college. It wasn't my roommate, but it was a cluster mate. So when I was at UW, I was in a dorm that had like a bunch of clusters. So it wasn't my actual roommate, but someone in the same area. I noticed that they were always playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And I kind of just assumed that this person, I interacted with him, I chatted with him and stuff like that. He seemed like a really smart dude. So I was like, oh, he just must be one of those guys that just doesn't have to go to class, doesn't have to study. You know, he could just do whatever, take the test and pass. About a month later, I'm like, hey, where'd so-and-so go?
Oh, no.
He got kicked out for bad grades.
Oh.
Like, his grades were so low that they're like, dude, you can't come here anymore.
You have to leave now.
Oh, shit.
Oh, that sucks. You know, I don't think I've ever met, I've met friends who are really into video games and will stay up all night playing a game, or like World of Warcraft being when that was still a thing, but even more so years ago. And I've known friends who basically, instead of romantic relationships or like extracurricular activities, it's all focused on video games, but never to the point where they've let it overtake their other parts of life, their jobs, their careers, or school education or whatever. Not contracts, but social... contracts. The choice. They're what they're supposed to be doing with the society, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, I've known a lot of people like that too. I've been that person that has just like played all night or played like endless amounts of like Call of Duty or something like that. The moment I get home from work, I take care of a couple chores, and then from like 5 to like 9 before I have to go to bed, I'm like Call of Duty.
Yeah. You know,
But like I never let it. I still paid the bills. I still ate my vegetables. You know, it's like so. I guess I was okay.
I'm thinking the most there's been a few games like it. I think there's one called Hades that was just released like last year that is incredible. If you haven't tried it, or if anybody listening wants to try it, I highly recommend it. I heard that it's like one of the first video games to win an award for literary writing. And it's a roguelike game, so you die a lot and you start over and you get a little bit stronger every time and you upgrade things very slowly.
Like
But
an RPG.
yeah, but it's like the same levels that like almost like Diablo, but if you died in Diablo and you had to start the whole game over again every 10 minutes.
Oh, you have to like literally start from the very beginning every time you die?
Yep, yeah.
Oh my god, that would
And
be frustrating.
technically, like if you like level up enough, like you can beat the whole game in like 30 minutes or so, but it takes that long to level up and you have to die, start over, and then you level up a little bit. There's one called Dead Cells that I'm playing right now that's very similar. I think there's one called Rogue Legacy, where it's kind of similar. And that one you die and you play like your ancestors, and like you get born and you pick who you're going to be, and each person has some sort of disability. So like one person is and some of the disabilities are made up like nostalgic, and everything is in like sepia color, so it's like browns and grays. And then one person's like height what's impaired or something, and they're extra small, and so you have to play the game as an extra small character, or super tall disorder, and like you're a giant and you can't fit through all the spaces, but you just keep dying over and over again. You die hundreds of times, but each time you get a little bit stronger, you get to add a few more weapons, and you get a little bit further in the game. And when you get strong enough and you get like the best case scenario and the best weapons, sometimes by luck, you can play through all the levels like in 30 minutes. It's just getting to that run, that one great run, that does it. Anyways, what was I talking about now?
You're talking about Hades and video games. And
Oh yeah, Hades. That one, I think it was because I would play and it would suck me in for a run, and like 30 minutes to an hour would go by, and then I would get like one new item. I'm like, I want to try that out. I'm gonna try just like one stage, and then another hour would go by, and like pretty soon I played it like 3 times. And I'm like, I made it a little ways, but I don't know where my evening went. That and
well,
what?
I think that this is actually going to go into one of the IQ points. Spoiler alert, one of the IQ points that we will talk about is about video game addiction and society. And one of them actually talks about what you went through. It's not necessarily addiction, but it's something called flow
Oh,
that they're calling it. But anybody can get into the flow, in quote, of anything. It could be a book, it could be a TV show, it could be even writing or doing your homework or something productive.
kind of like
just
getting
that,
in the zone.
yes, that's exactly what it is. Where a lot of times people call it addiction, but it's more just a flow.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll dive into that a little later.
I was gonna say the other one was Oblivion. Right?
I heard great things about Oblivion.
Like I could sit down and play that for 6 or 7 hours and just be like, "Whoa, the sun's coming up again!" Like, wow. But like you said, keeping other things going, so not necessarily addiction, but I like where this discussion's going with the flow.
Yeah, because I get into that. Well, I was like half addicted to Diablo 2 when you and I were playing. It was I wouldn't play every day. I'd play like every other day just because like my wife just wouldn't let me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the days that I would play, I would just go ham on it. And then on my off days when I wasn't playing, I'd be on YouTube watching videos on it.
Oh.
It's like, I'm going to watch somebody else play it.
But you ate your vegetables and you kept the bills paid. So
Yes, I did.
That's kind of the
Made it to
difference.
work on time.
Yeah.
Whether or not the work was quality that week, that's in the air.
That's up to Diablo 2 to decide.
So whatever Bale says.
Yeah. He says it works bad.
Yeah. Mephisto said it was shitty.
All right, so are we ready to start with the episode?
Yes, we are. Let's get started.
Hey, this aired October 6, 2008. Writers were Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and Steve Malaro. And the director was Mark Sandrowski again. And we, I have some guest stars, and I have their names later on, but I recognized one of them from some other stuff. But yeah, some interesting guest stars on, not huge things, but sometimes you mention those, and I thought it was interesting to see some interesting faces today.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, so we start off with Sheldon is at home on his computer, and he's playing a game, and he's about to enter Atzel's fortress, and he's calling himself Sheldon the Conqueror. And later on, we find out that the game is Age of Conan, which is a real game, I guess. I've never played it. Have you?
No, but that was actually one of the IQ points. I looked into whether or not it was real or not. I didn't realize it was a real game, so I never played it.
Yeah, I didn't either. And, it took until, a little bit later to realize that they were talking about a real game. But, yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. And he starts off by saying this is going to be a long run, bladder check. And I like that he points out a guy named Barry. He says, okay, Barry, but you really need to see a doctor. And I kind of wonder if this Barry will come back in at some point. And then we hear a sound across the hall, and Sheldon says AFK, which we later find out is away from keyboard. And I've actually started saying this, but I didn't know what it meant until probably like 4 years ago. And there was a place by me called AFK Tavern, and it was a gaming place, gaming bar, and they had gaming themed drinks. And I'm like, that's a weird name, AFK. Like, I didn't even think it meant anything. I thought it was just a name. And then somebody's like, yeah, it's because it's a gaming place and you're away from your keyboard to get a drink. I'm like,
I think I've been there. There's more than one location, isn't
there? Might be. I just know the one, there's one kind of close to me.
Because I think they opened up, I don't know if it's still there, if it's the same place, but I think they opened up one in Renton. Granted, this was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was like, I think there was one in Renton, and there was another one in like Edmonds, because I think one of our mutual friends brought me there at one point.
I want to say this one was between Everett and Linwood. So
I think
kind
I've
of
been there.
South Everett.
Yeah.
And
I think I've been there.
It was a fun place, but also kind of, I don't know if it was like used to be a fast food restaurant, and then it became like a storage shed, and then like they took over, and it was very dimly lighted, and
yep,
smelled kind of funky.
It was almost like, I feel like the one that I went to was like an old steakhouse. It was like a keg or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they turned it into like this gaming bar and everything like that, where people could play board games and stuff like that.
And I remember, like, I'm probably making this up at this point, but like hallways that led into dead ends, like, and they just had tables set up at the dead ends where people would play, like, that's the room for dominoes or something. I'm like, okay. And it's totally my type of place. I mean, I love board games and I love drinks, so it's fun.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
So he goes into the hallway, and Penny is having trouble with her door. And I like that his initial reaction is like, could you be quiet? Like, she's totally struggling.
And I don't know what you're doing, but keep it down.
Keep it down. But I also respect that, because, when people come over and get nosy, and like, they're like, what are you doing over here? Why are you making so much noise? Like, I'd sometimes rather than just say, hey, could you keep it down, instead of like asking, like,
instead of prying.
Yeah. Although, like, when I brew in my garage, like, people come by and they're like, what are you making? I'm like, oh, it's an IPA. And they're like, so it's beer. I'm like, yeah, it's beer. I'm not making meth, okay?
If this was meth, the door would be shut.
Hopefully. Unless you're really into meth, then maybe I keep the door open.
New customer alert.
And so basically asks her what's happened, and she says that she's put her car key into her door. And this is where I get the first IQ point, because he says that that's kind of an odd situation, because her door is a Baldwin lock traditional edge-mounted cylinder lock, while her Volkswagen uses a center cylinder system. And I realized I knew nothing about locks when it came to this. But here's a few things I learned. I learned that when he says edge-mounted, that just means up next to the edge of the door. And cylinder system would be a cylinder that goes into the system but doesn't exit out anywhere. Whereas with the traditional cylinder, you get a cylinder that is front and back, and it can have a keyhole on one side and a twisting applicator, whatever, thumb switch on the other. Or there's two cylinder systems, I think they're called, that have keyholes on both sides. And it's like familiar stuff I see every day, but I didn't know that there were actual terms for this.
Yeah, you see it every day with like your normal door. Like it's basically the deadbolt that he's talking about.
Yeah, he's just bringing in, like, apparently there's actual terminology. And when he said Baldwin is a brand. Found out it was founded in 1946 by Severin Fairman, and it's since been sold into other places. But according to tomakeahome.com, they are a great brand, because they offer many choices, beautiful choices. They are durable and they are affordable. However, they are not quite in the digital age. There are no smart features as of whenever this was written. So if you're looking for like a smart home lock or a passcode or an app for your iPhone, Baldwin would not be the way to go.
Well, based off the trailer of what Scream 5, I don't think I want a digital one.
That's fair. Yeah.
If someone's going to kill me, they're going to do it the old-fashioned way and pick that shit.
They're going to pick that or break the window like like I used to do.
Like a normal criminal.
Yeah. Normal psychopath. And then I found out that technically with the center cylinder systems, that they are actually known for having keys, and this is the car systems, that are double-sided. And the reason for this is you can put them in either way usually, and because it's kind of hard to see the keyhole and you don't really see what you're doing, they try to make it easier for you to put the key into the ignition. Whereas with your house, there's only grooves on one side of the key and flat on the other side, because you'll see what side you're putting it in. And of course, there's exceptions, but that's a really good giveaway of if you're using a car key or a house key. In this case, she put in the double-sided one into the single-sided application. It's my understanding.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's some useless information I found out about keys.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm glad you found the information, because I tried looking this one up, and this to me was a failed IQ point, because I could not figure out what he was talking about, because it's basically what you said. It was about the lock mechanism itself, but the way he made it sound was that he was describing that all those terminology was for the shape of the key itself. So that's what I was trying to look into, and not the mechanism itself.
Yeah, at first I thought he was talking about the tumbler system, and as far as I know, like when a key goes in, the ridges are adjusted to hit like little bars that like pop up and get suspended, and when all the bars are suspended at the same time, the key can turn. I only know this because of Oblivion. I learned something from that game, being addicted to it or flowed with it. There's a lock picking mini game, and you have to go through and hit these little tumblers to get the lock to open up. And the harder the lock, the more the tumblers. And so I thought he was talking about that, but he was talking more about the mechanism and the shape and design of it.
Yeah, I found since he mentioned the center cylinder system, I couldn't really find anything on that, so I'm glad you found it. But I found the central cylinder system.
Ooh.
Not center, so central. So that is a key system that where you can manage multiple locks with a single key. So that's what I thought he was talking about, but it didn't make sense that he referred to his car key as the center or central cylinder. Because, like, why would you want multiple keys to handle your car? Or have. Because a central cylinder key is more the key that you use for an apartment complex, because you would want a master key. And that master key is that system.
I was going to say, that's like the master key in Zelda, right? It opens all the
Absolutely.
doors.
Yeah. That is a central cylinder.
Although, I mean, you get it with, you can open up your car door. Well, I think it'd be more complex because you can open up your car door and turn your car on with the same key usually. And sometimes houses will have multiple doorknobs or locks that use one key. And so you can open up your back door or garage with the same key as you would your front door. But I think that's a little bit different than, like you said, an apartment complex. That would be a lot of locks with one key.
Yeah.
Interesting. The world of keys.
Yeah. That's what I found. So not the real IQ point, so thank you for finding it.
No worries. I have a failed IQ point later that you might help me with.
I can't wait.
Yeah. All right. So I really like that. Yeah, she basically falls down and says that she's mad because she was told that she looks too Midwest for her audition. And then she goes into it and says she's had no raise, like nothing's going on with her job, and no sex for 6 months, which kind of becomes, it stood out for me, but it stands out for Leonard too, right?
Yeah, he's very happy about that.
Six months? And then a fly flew into her mouth and she ate it.
Yeah. Penny is not having a good time.
I love how I ate it. That's the bottom of the barrel. And this actually, Sheldon talks about insects being protein, and I did some research into this.
Cool. Me too.
You want to go for this one?
Oh, sure. So, Sheldon says that insects are a dietary staple in many cultures, and they're almost pure protein. So I looked into what other countries partake in the insect-based diets. So I found this on travel.usnews.com. So Americans, we see insects as the destroyers of crops and ruiners of picnics rather than a food source. But many cultures out there, primarily Africa, Asia, and South America, rely on insects as their main source of protein. So according to this article, many of these listed countries that I mentioned still partake in insect cuisine. So there's Thailand. They do fried bugs, and they serve it with beer, very similar to peanuts in a bar. And a lot of it is served as street food. One of their popular dishes is called jing lid. It's a deep fried cricket seasoned in golden mountain sauce, which is similar to a soy sauce. They also do grasshopper, woodworm, bamboo worm, and mang da, which is a water beetle. And they're prepared in the same fashion, where it's fried and tossed in a sauce. And according to them, each insect has their own unique flavor. Then there's Ghana. Termites are a staple there. Since other foods are in short supply during the country's spring months, this is where the Ghanaians are busy planting their crops. So they eat the termites during that time.
I'm curious. I didn't see anything on this, but I imagine they kind of cook them like lobsters, where you don't kill them beforehand. You just throw them in or start frying them up alive. Is that what you understood?
I kind of took it as that too, because it would be like very challenging to kill every bug.
I was gonna say, like, trying to use one of those air guns that they use for cows, like every cricket, pop, pop.
It's gonna take a while.
Oh, there's only legs left. Wow,
just blows it up, and that's how we get cricket flour.
Yeah.
All right. There was Mexico. They have French fried caterpillars and eggs cooked in butter, chocolate covered locusts, candy covered worms, and then very famous mezcal in Oaxaca. That usually has the worm on the inside of the bottle.
You were there at the time I had the one with the scorpion. Were you?
Yeah.
There? Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
That was a fun time.
Yeah. Did you end up eating the scorpion?
I did. I swallowed him whole. No chewing.
Was it pretty soft?
Yeah. It was like kind of
gelatinous at
that point.
Sitting in alcohol, I would imagine, just breaks down everything.
And it wasn't a huge scorpion either. I mean, it was like, the size of a dime or something, but
that's the thing about like eating bugs. I'm not opposed to it, but the thing that freaks me out is that a lot of these bugs that they're describing have like little pincers or like little horns or things like that. Like, what if that like scrapes the
stabby things?
Yeah, it has a stabby thing. So it's like, what?
Scorpion's lodged in my throat.
Yeah, like that thing looks deadly. It is deadly. People die from scorpion stings.
And where was this thing? It was in my esophagus.
Yeah. Well, besides the scorpion, have you had a lot of bugs or eaten bugs?
I didn't give myself a point like Penny because it wasn't the worst day of my life, but I did swallow a gnat one time when I was running home from school, and there was just like a swarm of gnats, and it was like horrifically bitter. So whenever people are like, "Oh, crickets taste better," I'm like, I'm a little iffy because this was like biting into a Excedrin pill or something of bitterness. Like, I don't even understand what happened exactly. But I don't think I've had any other bugs. I mean, technically,
I did notice that none of these lists of bugs that I'm going to continue listing off things, but none of them are flies. Because I think flies are more like, they eat, like, their diet is much more disgusting than, like, these other bugs.
They are unclean.
Yeah, like, flies seem very unclean compared to, like, these other bugs.
I think I saw somewhere on there that flies do have protein, but not as much protein either. So their nutritional level isn't up there. And maybe they're just difficult to catch too. Like, to catch swarms of flies
They are very fast.
Yeah.
Like, every time I get a fly in the house, like a house fly, it's like, it takes forever for me to get it.
Yeah.
But I get it. Oh, I get it.
It takes years.
But I got it. And I chop its head off and put it on a little pike.
To serve as a warning
for the rest of the flies. All right. Well, to continue on with the other countries, there are three more countries. China does boiled water bugs that are then soaked in vinegar. They do live scorpions doused in baju, which is a robust liquor. Don't know how they do that, but that was in the article.
That's taking it a step above what I did with the mezcal.
Yeah. Roasted bee larvae and fried silkworm moth larvae. Then Brazil, fried ants or ants dipped in chocolate. And then Japan, they have boiled wasp larvae, fried silk moth pupae. I think that might have been larvae. That was actually auto-corrected.
Oh.
Not that I know what a pupae is.
That's another IQ point for another day.
Fried cicadas and fried grasshopper. So, according to the article, this is what other countries do in terms of insect cuisine, and it's still very active today.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I got was that America is kind of the odd one out with not eating bugs. And I think it's like you said, that we see them as a crop killer, and other countries often see them as, well, if they're killing the crops, let's eat them too, right? It's a sustenance point. I found
It's fighting fire with fire.
Exactly.
You eat my crops, I'm going to eat you.
How do you like it? Not so much. I found a little bit of information to add to this. I had a looked over an abstract from the August to December issue 2020 issue of Euroscience Journal of Biosciences, Eurasian Journal of Biosciences, and it says that they found that roasting bugs gives them more protein than other forms of cooking. So if you're looking for actual protein, roast those bugs instead of frying them up. But I'm thinking they don't taste as good if they're roasted versus fried in some of those sauces we were talking about, right?
Probably. If you bread it, toss in a little bit of flour, a little bit of egg wash, a little flour, fry it so it gets all crispy and everything. Toss it into a sauce. It's basically just like eating air.
Right? It's lost all the protein. It's now just fat. Okay, yeah. I'll take that too. And then I read on foodnavigator.usa.com that interviewed a company is called Hargul Food Tech from Israel, I believe. They said that grasshoppers are among the most with protein, that they have 20% more protein than crickets, with being at around 72% protein total and having a bunch of amino acids. And so from what I could find, those are the top of the bugs to eat if you are actually eating them for sustenance. Again, it didn't really say how they taste, but crickets and grasshoppers look.
Yeah, I didn't do any grasshoppers, but I did some research on crickets and cricket flour, because that was actually kind of a trending thing in America for a really hot second. This was back in 2016.
Really?
I think it was pretty trendy amongst the health and fitness world. I knew some people that were into it. I had a coworker that every day brought a cricket protein bar that was made with cricket flour. So I tried it, and you know what? It was dipped in chocolate and everything like that. It had some other stuff in it, so I couldn't even tell a difference. So cricket in particular, I found this on healthline.com. So it's called cricket flour, but it's definitely more like a powder, because it's definitely kind of gets everywhere. It contains comparable amounts of the energy-boosting vitamin B12 at 24 micrograms per 100 grams. This is around 10 times as much as salmon. Cricket flour also contains the essential mineral iron at 6 to 11 milligrams per 100 grams, more than twice the amount as spinach. And initial cellular research also suggests that our bodies absorb minerals such as iron more easily when delivered via crickets as opposed to beef.
Oh.
So other vitamins and nutrients in cricket flour. So we mentioned vitamin B12, then there's potassium, calcium, mentioned iron, magnesium, selenium, protein, and fatty acids. So very nutritious. And for anyone that's curious of its flavor, people describe the flavor profile of cricket flour as mildly nutty and more pleasant than expected.
I was expecting shit. So yeah.
More pleasant. Cricket flour also imparts a subtle earthy taste that easily disguises itself with other ingredients and flavors when processed. So people have made pasta with it, and according to them, it just tastes like normal pasta. I mean, especially after you mix it with sauce and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cricket flour.
Interesting. I don't know. I don't think I've ever tried cricket flour. I remember hearing about those bars that you were talking about, kind of like power bars or...
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and look for them now.
Crickets don't seem nearly as dirty as a fly.
Right? Yeah. Or even termites seem worse for some reason. What's the dirtiest bug? Dirty bugs.
A centipede.
Or those, what are those? Is that what the house centipedes that
Oh,
have?
like the water. No, it's called the. Oh my god, I get those all the time where I'm at. It's
Yeah, I got them in Pennsylvania when I was there too, and
silverfish.
silverfish. Oh,
Oh,
those
yeah, I see those pretty often here.
yeah, and they get big there too. Like I've seen like one or two like at camping sites here, but they're usually pretty small. But Pennsylvania,
I went on a trip. God, this was 2 years ago when I went to Hawaii. I took this long trip that my work approved because I told them that I would work remotely most of the days. I went to Hawaii. So it was a week in Washington and 2 weeks in Hawaii. It was magical. I'm hoping to do it again soon. But of course, I'm gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So we shut everything off, turned the heater off, turned everything off, and everything just left the house. When we got back, I was going to hop in the shower. The biggest silverfish that I've ever seen. Was just like,
run!
Like, you die now. I just start smashing it. Like, die, fucker.
I need some gasoline.
Light it up. I need backup. Backup.
Well, it's dead. Should we try eating it? Okay.
Well, we didn't plan a meal for our return, so baby, I found this silverfish.
We're feasting tonight. I'll take a leg.
All right. That's what I had on bugs.
Okay. So, where are we from there? Yeah, Penny continues complaining that she's a failure at everything, and now her breath smells like fly. And Sheldon's kind of walking away, and he's like, "Do you want to wait in our apartment?" And she's like, "No, I'd rather just sit here on the cold floor crying like a 3-year-old."
And he takes it so literal.
Yeah, he's like, "Okay, then."
All right, then. I tried to help.
Yeah. And she's like, "No, I'm going inside." And he's like, I thought I understood sarcasm.
All right. But before we actually get into the next scene and the theme and everything like that, I actually did an IQ point on Sheldon's comment on Scandinavians and Germans in the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was wondering, I was like, is that true?
I've heard that. I have heard that, and I know, Pennsylvania, Dutch country, right? That a lot of Dutch, Germans in Pennsylvania, and when I was in Nebraska, people told me, but I don't really know what that facial structure looks like. But I'm curious what you have to say.
Well, I didn't go into the facial structure, which now that you mention it, I should have. But he mentioned it with like the jawline and stuff like that and everything. But I was more curious about like, in the Midwest, I guess there are a lot of Germans and Scandinavians. So my question was why? So as Sheldon said, there are mostly Scandinavians and people of Germanic descent in the American Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
So the short answer is yes, that's true. So I found americanhistory.si.edu, ancestry.com, and the Wazoo website. That's Washington State University. In the 1800s, many Germans and Scandinavians came to the U.S., mostly from Germany, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. And why did they come? And it was apparently because of the large population booms in their home country. So Norway's population doubled in size between 1750 and 1850, pushing people to migrate in search for land that they could claim as their own. So then they came to America. But why did they settle in the Midwest? Why are they in like almost the dead center of America? So it's because at this time period, pre-1900s, many of the European countries were still very rural, with the exception of Germany being pretty industrialized. But the population that left to come to the United States were in search for agricultural land. So while many immigrants stayed in the larger cities upon arrival, most of them pressed further inward of the country for farmland. And also, the discovery of metals and oil in Illinois and Indiana prompted many companies to recruiting German miners, contributing to the influx. More than 5 million Germans came to the US in the 1800s. And the populations were so large that during the heyday of their immigration, German and Scandinavians would come to be the dominant ethnic group in many Midwestern states, including Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Because of their large numbers, they were able to establish self-sustaining communities that supported their home languages, which were used in schools, churches, and everyday business by the immigrant communities. So, very large populations. And it's still that way, I think.
I've heard that. In fact, I read somewhere. In fact, it's one of the classes I teach on folklore discusses what's it called? Cods soaked in lye.
Is that fish thing?
Yeah, the fish thing.
Oh my god! Like I know what you're talking about, but like,
and it's a Scandinavian dish, and apparently it wasn't like a dish that was had all that often in Scandinavia. And a lot of people who came here hooked onto their roots and basically lutefisk, yeah. It's kind of this notion that they eat it in these climates that are really tough and harsh and rural, and they eat it with the memories of where they came from and how strong they are. And it's kind of like on a subconscious psychological level, but it's become more popular here than in any originating countries, which was kind of interesting from what I was reading. Lutefisk. Yeah, it's like cod soaked in lye until it becomes like a jelly and then rinsed off and served with butter, and it basically tasted like butter when I had it. I liked it.
Delicious.
Yeah.
All right, before we move on again, AFK.
So we have gone through the intro, and we are back in the apartment where Sheldon tells Penny to make herself comfortable. Of course, he says, "Don't sit in my spot."
I love that. I love this interaction.
And she just flops down and puts her feet up on the table, and Sheldon's kind of like, ugh.
Like, right. Don't make yourself that comfortable.
Yeah. And she's like, so what are you doing? And he's like, playing Age of Conan. And that's when the Age of Conan game is brought up. And she's asking questions. What's AFK mean? And she goes, oh, I see. And he's like, what's that mean? Yeah. Like it sounds.
I see. Yes, but what does it mean?
What does it mean? And that's when Leonard comes in down the hallway, and I love the scene. All the groceries are still out on the floor, which she must have had a bad day, because I can't see me having a bad day and ever letting ice cream go to waste.
Yeah, just leave. Like, she had like 3 bags of groceries or something like that. It's like to just leave it there. No day would be that bad.
Like, maybe I'd leave the bread there because bread's not going to go bad, but
it's also cheap too.
Yeah, the frozen stuff, and just I'd borrow Sheldon's freezer,
or just cook it all off now.
Yeah, let's have a little meal. Yeah, I got some crickets in
the frozen aisle.
So there's a cat eating ice cream in the hallway, and I like never really explains where this cat came from. It's just a cat.
Yeah, it must be a neighbor's cat, but they don't explain it. It's just, some wildlife is getting to the ice cream.
And
should we talk Age of Conan?
Oh yeah, go for it. I didn't really do that much on it. I looked into it, made sure it was a real game, but
yeah, I mean that's pretty much to the extent that I did. So it is a real game, Age of Conan, and it is based off Robert E. Howard's Conan the Barbarian. It was released May 20th, 2008, 5 months before this episode launched. So it's actually a very fresh game. And it's still active today, but you can play it for free.
Oh.
So, early reviews from back in 2008. I found this on MMOs.com. It was rated 3.38 out of 5 with 65 votes. So, not too bad. It's good, not
There's
great.
better, but not, yeah.
They said that the pros are the real-time combat and a superb soundtrack, player cities, which I don't know what that means, 12 diverse classes. So those are the pros. Cons are balancing issues, extensive tutorial island, and a large hard drive requirement. And at the time, no new content. So the new content, I believe, came in 2020. So they finally updated it. And right now it does not seem very popular. It doesn't seem like it's doing very well, but the servers are still active.
Well, I mean, it's free to play. It can't be making too much money.
Yeah, it looks the exact same, and based off some reviews I read, it's pretty much the exact same game, just updated special effects.
I did watch a quick raid on, or at least the last battle of what temple were they doing? The Temple of Atzel's Tower, Atzel's Fortress. Yeah, I actually looked that up and watched a bunch of barbarians kicking some guy's ass. And
did it look good? Did it look fun?
It looked fun. I'm not that into barbarians. And whenever I think Conan, I think of like Arnold Schwarzenegger type stuff, and some people really like that. Goes back to kind of the heavy metal, like if you ever saw that cartoon, a lot of like really metal music and strongmen and princesses and stuff, or at least that's what it looked like to me, and that's what I think of when I think of Conan.
Yeah.
And I like more JRPG type stuff.
Dumb question, but what's JRPG?
Japanese role-playing game.
Oh, okay.
So I like my characters animated with very
spiky hair, like
spiky hair, colorful hair.
Yeah.
Random pieces of metal gadgets hanging on their shoulders, and quirky personalities.
Yeah.
Possibly some dating sim thrown in. But yeah, I mean, I'd probably try it, but I'm a Mac user, so it's hard for me to find compatible games. That's why I'm a console user for gaming.
Yeah, that's why I had some tough times with Diablo 2. I feel like most of the players of Blizzard games, or at least with like Diablo and like World of Warcraft, even StarCraft, are more PC users. That's why our servers were like really empty.
Mm-hmm. Because they're all PC. Yeah, I let people know at home that I just got a PS5. They're becoming more readily.
You just got a PS5?
I got a PS5.
Oh shit! Was that a birthday gift?
It was a birthday gift.
Oh, wish Ryan a happy birthday. His birthday just came and passed.
Thank you, everyone. What made me do it was that I never got to play Dead Space, and Dead Space just got remade for PlayStation 5, right? And I'm like, I've been waiting to play that. I want to play that. I need to play that. And so, birthday was a good reason to get one.
Nice. So they're pretty available now?
They're becoming more and more so. I just went into Target and picked this up, so...
Wow, you just waltzed into Target.
Yeah.
Just grabbed it. You grabbed a package of crickets and grabbed your PS5.
Like I knew what was going on. I'll take my crickets, I'll take my PS5, and those condoms. Yeah.
I'm ready for a good weekend.
Get yourself ready, PS5.
Gonna make sweet love.
Long time coming.
Yeah. I'll show you some Dead Space.
But apparently with PS5 there's a built-in game that like I hadn't heard of, and when I turned it on, like it downloads it or installs it automatically, but it's kind of like a welcome to the system type game, but almost like Super Mario 64, where you're a little robot collecting coins. And look into it, it's like gotten like phenomenal reviews, and I spent like an hour, like I'm just trying to figure out what it was, and then I like got hooked into it. I got put into that flow.
Yeah, and felt the flow.
Wow, they like didn't even say this was included, and I'm kind of impressed that like this freebie game was part of it.
Nice. I've been debating if I was going to get one, but with the kid and everything, I have no time for
Yeah.
games. Maybe when Diablo 4 comes out.
You've given up on your life this go around. Maybe in the next
Yeah,
reincarnation.
pretty much. I mean, I the only gaming that I'm doing right now is I got the mobile version of Final Fantasy VII,
Yeah.
and I can't even play it like the real way, like just playing through it,
Mhm.
because I don't have the time to like grind or anything like that. I only
Yeah.
have like 10-minute bursts to play it. So the mobile version actually has uh where you can max out your stats. There's
The
like you could just go into options and just max out your stats.
quality of life features or something that just like
Yeah.
maxes out on like
So I'm just like kind of going through just to go through the motions,
re-experience
just to kind of
it.
unwind and everything like that, just to
Yeah.
kind of like kill things.
That's why I've been playing this game on my phone that has some bugs because apparently they rushed it, but it's called Vampire Survivors. And like it's a huge thing for a PC, and like by no means should this game have gained any traction, but it's become huge. And it's like the artwork from Castlevania games, but all you do is like walk around and like it's not even a twin shooter. Like you just have one joystick and you move around and your character shoots randomly in a direction. And you level up your magic, you level up your weapons, and if you can stay alive long enough, you get really strong and you kill like the bosses in the level. But like the most you can do is like 30 minutes and the stage ends. But it's like a quick thing where I'm like, I have like 5 minutes to kill. I just turn that on and it flashing colors keeps me entertained.
Yeah, we're at that stage where it's really hard to invest time into games. It's like
Yeah.
I just need something short, I need it quick, I need some instant gratification, and then I'm good.
I don't need a 2 or 3 hour tutorial. I'm not going to pay attention that long.
Honestly, that's actually why I stopped playing the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah.
Like relearning an entire battle system was a little too trying for
And then
me. It's
like
like I don't have time
by the time I got
for
the hang
this.
of it, like I had to put it down because I was traveling or something. I got busy and I picked it up again. I'm like, I have to relearn the whole goddamn thing.
Yeah, that's why I stopped. I got like 15 hours into it. Stuff came up, and then I just never
It's
picked it
just
up
like
again.
it's
So it's
not
like,
worth
well,
it.
there it is. I guess I'm done with that game.
It was beautiful while it lasted, but
Yeah.
damn.
I guess I'm going to revert back to the original because that I'm familiar with.
Back in my day. Leonard comes in and says, "Hey, Sheldon, could you catch me up in the kitchen?" And he basically rehashes everything, right? Oh, she's not gaining anything at work. She looks too Midwestern for her part. She hasn't had sex in 6 months. And Leonard's like, 6 months?
Well.
And starts to understand, and then it flashes to the gang in the apartment later playing with cornstarch on a sub. And I've never done this, but I've wanted to do it.
Yeah, it is a non-Newtonian fluid. Which, did you do an IQ point on this?
I did. I looked into it some.
All right. Do you want to take this one?
You kickstart it.
All right. So, as Ryan was saying, they're playing around with cornstarch and water with a subwoofer, where they're using the bass to kind of hit it with a force, and it becomes solid. But when the force is gone, it turns back into liquid. So the question is, what's happening? This is a non-Newtonian fluid, which is a fluid that does not follow Newton's law of viscosity. I guess what that means is it's a constant viscosity independent of stress. In non-Newtonian fluids, viscosity can change when under force to either more liquid or more solid. So ketchup is an example of that because it becomes runnier when shaken, and thus it is a non-Newtonian fluid. I actually didn't know that. I didn't realize it's so subtle though that
I'm gonna look something up really quick.
I have a list of other non-Newtonian fluids, but while Ryan is looking that up, I will carry on.
What I was looking up was glass, And glass is not a apparently from what I'm looking at right now, is not a non-Newtonian fluid, but it is a super cooled liquid. That technically glass is liquid.
What? Really?
Yeah. I heard that like back in elementary school. I'm like, what?
Like,
like, whoa, everything's liquid.
I think we're in the Matrix right now.
that actually makes a lot of sense. All right, go ahead.
Well, all right.
Go ahead. I just had to look into that.
Well, a Newtonian fluid is a fluid that has a predictable viscosity, regardless of an external force against it. So, an example is honey. It's thick, but when it's warm, it thins out, but it still behaves the exact same, whether it's warm or cold. So, whether it's warm or cold, if you put an object through it, like a ruler or a hammer or something through it, the viscosity stays the exact same. So, water is also another example of this. So, cornstarch, again, it is a non Newtonian fluid. When you slowly move an object through it, it behaves very similar to water or honey or a Newtonian fluid. But when you apply force to it, the slurry becomes more viscous or less viscous. It becomes more solid.
More solid. Like, yeah, I get viscous confused.
Yeah, I know. It's like it becomes more solid.
It's like so opaque. Does opaque mean I can see through it or not see through it? Right? Viscous.
But it was very challenging to look into why this happens, but it's hard to explain, and a lot of people don't really fully understand why this happens, but it's just one of those scientific phenomenons
that we just have to assume it happens. Kind of like when water freezes, it expands, right?
It's just
it happens.
It's just one of those things.
It's part of the Matrix.
Is one of those things. And I remember back in high school, there was I remember this kid was playing with like very thick cornstarch and water and everything, and he was doing the exact same thing where it would melt in his hand, and then the moment he started like fumbling with it, it would harden up.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, it got hard.
It got hard. And it's up.
All right, so here are some other examples of non-Newtonian fluids. So the type of non-Newton, there are different types.
Oh, different like levels.
Yeah, I guess so. So I found this chart. So the type is dilatant, which is shear thickening. The behavior is viscosity increases with increased stress. So cornstarch is that. So suspensions of cornstarch in water. Then there is pseudoplastic, which is shear thinning. And what happens is viscosity decreases with increased stress. So ketchup. So the more you shake it, the more liquefied it becomes.
Ah.
And whipped cream and nail polish. And then the third one is thixotropic. Viscosity reduces with time as a result of stress. So peanut butter, yogurt, and hydrogenated castor oil. Then the last one is rheopedic. Viscosity rises over time as a result of stress. So gypsum paste, synovial fluid, and printer ink.
That's a weird one.
Yeah. So I also looked into some fun uses of a non-Newtonian fluid, and I found this on sciencealert.com. This is really cool that they're actually creating bulletproof vests using non-Newtonian fluids. So
that's awesome.
So it's supposed to be more comfortable and stronger than Kevlar. There's also a more distribution of force upon impact, so there's less chances of it ricocheting, thus the wearer will feel less impact. So just like the cornstarch, like I actually watched some videos of people with the cornstarch slurry taking a sledgehammer to it, and there's so much force impacting on it that it just solidifies that you can't break through it. So imagine that in like a bulletproof vest.
A bullet's hitting this liquid, but the pressure is forming a barrier, a solid barrier.
It actually becomes more solid with the more force against it.
Wow, that's so cool. I'm glad you took over that IQ point, because the most I got on that was that cornstarch and water mixed together is called oblique, which comes from a Dr. Seuss story called Bartholomew and the Oblique. And it's about this guy named Bartholomew, and his kingdom is attacked by a green ooze-like substance. And apparently that's, like, kids make this. It's kind of like almost like a Play-Doh type substance to play with. And if you add more cornstarch, it gets a little bit thicker, and people, that's what I remember doing as a kid.
This is Dr. Seuss?
Yeah, back in 1949.
Which book is this? Is this a book?
Bartholomew and the Oblique.
I've not heard of this
one.
And
apparently, I think it was the first one I read by him, or my mom read, because I'm like, so this green slide is killing everybody? And I probably added that part to it, but that's like kind of what I remember. And this substance gets its name now from, like, Dr. Seuss came first, then the Oblique.
Interesting.
Right.
I had no idea. I never heard of that. Is this still being published now? That sounds scary.
It should.
This green thing is killing.
Yeah, look it up. It's like just a green thing, and it's like flying on somebody's face, and it's like, oh no.
How do you spell oblique?
Ooblec.
Bartholomew.
And that's such a weird Bartholomew.
And the oblique. There it is. Yeah. You could buy it on Amazon for $14.39.
And like I said, there's like the cover is a guy getting killed with this green stuff.
Well, I mean, he's running away from it, but definitely
he's running for a hospital. Originally published 1949. Cornstarch and water. So Dr. Seuss is inspiring scientists, I guess.
Yeah, and horror writers.
Yeah. This is why we need those bulletproof vests.
Yeah.
All right, so
that's what I had on non-Newtonian fluids.
That was great. I'm gonna look up some of those bulletproof vest stuff. That's so cool. Okay, so where are we? Thanks. Oh yeah, part of this. I remember watching this back in like a YouTube video of in like 2012 or something, and like the different music and bass responses you're playing, the different ways the pace will like rise. And I've seen some that looks like a guy like trying to come to life and raise out of a grave, and like it's kind of terrifying, like it's surreal to see it. So their case looked kind of silly, but I've seen some that you get that mixture right and play the right music, and it's like, woo.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna look that up.
I want to try it someday. And then Penny comes in and needs to talk to Sheldon, and everybody's pretty surprised. And Raj whispers to Howard, and he's like, "Yep, that's what she said, Sheldon, of all of us,
Yeah.
right?"
It's a weird comic book crossover.
It's like the Hulk dating Peppermint Patty. Which I have to say, I don't remember with Charlie Brown, but didn't Scooby-Doo always throw in those crossovers? Like Scooby-Doo meets Kiss.
Oh, Scooby-Doo, yeah.
So
I was thinking of Snoop, like when we were talking about Peppermint Hat, I was like Snoopy, but then you said Scooby-Doo. So I was like, yeah, lots of crossovers. Yeah, I remember there was a lot of fun episodes where like Scooby-Doo meets Sonny and Cher. And
yeah. That was but I don't remember Hulk or Peppermint Patty ever doing it, but they mention that isn't Peppermint Patty a lesbian? And Leonard says no, that was Marcy. But I looked into this, and there's really no set understanding. In fact, the more I looked into it, the more it became like maybe Peppermint Patty was bisexual, because she was into Charlie Brown, who she called Chuck. But she's also, there's a lot of theories that her and Marcy are more than friends. I mean, they're all kids, so we're stipulating their sexual identities, but
yeah, I guess I never picked up on it as a child. It was like, I don't know, I just like they're friends. Peppermint Patty's into sports, whatever. It's like, who cares?
But apparently, what was it? I looked into, there's references on Robot Chicken, Saturday Night Live, even Scrubs apparently had a skit about Peppermint Patty and Marcy.
I guess
so it is interesting, but apparently, you know,
I guess it's kind of like Bert and Ernie for like a long time,
right? Or but although
they made it official like 4 or 5 years ago.
I was going to say that became official, right?
Yeah, that became official, but like earlier on, like when Peppermint Patty and Marcy were a thing, I'm sure it was just like speculation and things like that.
But technically, Bert and Ernie are full-grown adults. They live on their own. They have jobs.
That's true.
Like, I was also thinking about Frog and Toad, right? The two gentlemen who wear like nice hats and do a bicycle together.
Frog and Toad?
Oh, look this up. Because like for a long time people were like, they aren't gay. And then like,
oh, Frog and Toad are together. Frog and Toad are friends.
They're good friends. And you know what? Look at them on that bike. I've never seen a couple happier on a tandem bike.
Tandem bikes are kind of scary,
right? I don't think I have that much trust in my partner.
Yeah, I did a 3-person tandem bike a really long time ago.
How'd it go?
It was scary. We didn't crash, so
good.
we were fine. But it was like, dude, this is like one false move. You pumped.
All right, so Penny is asking Sheldon about getting help with the sword in the game, and she walks away, and Sheldon goes, "That girl needs to get a life."
That was a laugh out loud moment. Love that.
As if he knows. And then it's the middle of the night, and Penny enters Sheldon's room. I love this scene. Sheldon wakes up saying, "Danger, danger," but I'm giving 1 point for being like Penny here.
Because you have no boundaries.
Yeah, I kind of forget about them. Like, especially if like I'm hyper focused on something. Like, I remember one time. In fact, I was playing with you. It was so I could get on Star Wars Battlefront, and EA had locked me out because my ex-wife's brother had used my screen name or something for something else years ago, and I just had never played an EA game. And so I like called her up, and it was like 9:00 our time, but 3 hours ahead. I'm like, "Oh, sorry." And she's like, I'll figure it out. And he texted me back, and it's probably 2:00 his time. I don't know what she said, but I got the password that night. I'm like, that probably wasn't appropriate, but I was just
looking back. You know what? In the moment, I got to play my game, so fuck it all. But then later on, I thought about it,
and I'm thinking this really should have been a Sheldon moment, but this is a Penny moment, so I'm taking it as Penny, no boundaries.
Yeah, you know what? When you get sucked into a game, you just go for it. And yeah, I'd love so many laugh out loud moments in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the way that he was sleeping.
It's like Sheldon just like up.
Straight up as if he's in a coffin. Or I was thinking like how he's always referred to as like a robot. He's like a robot that's been powered down.
Yeah.
Which makes sense that he's saying danger, danger. Because that's a reference to Lost in Space, right?
Will Robinson, right?
Yeah, danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah. That's a good comparison of him being like a robot. Yeah, that works. He's like, people can't be in my bedroom. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, let's go. He's like, I'm not wearing pajama bottoms.
And he can't get another one because it's his Monday pair.
This is my Monday pair. I spilled grape juice on them. Just like, get your act together. I need help.
Yeah, because she's now a level 25.
And then we get into a great instance of dramatic irony. And this, for literary technique, basically the reader is aware of something that characters are not aware of in the skit or in the tale being told. And in this case, Leonard walks out and he hears Penny walking out and saying, "Thanks, he was really great." And she walks out and says, "Don't go in there, he has no pants on." And Leonard's standing there.
It also goes back further where Sheldon is saying, "Penny, enough's enough. Like enough's enough. Like I'm tired. Let me sleep."
And so these things add up, and Leonard's like, "What's going on?"
I think you need to catch me up on something.
Catch me up again. Don't go in there. He has no pants on. But yeah,
I also like the over dramaticness of Penny, where she's like talking about her characters. Like, I'm just wondering if this is the right move for my character. Just like taking it so serious and everything.
Isn't he like, "No, that's stupid. They're going to use you for dragon fodder."
Yeah.
Like, don't do that.
You think you could trust a group of Hungarian barbarians?
Dragon fodder, Penny. But yeah, I love that, Frasier was huge on the dramatic irony. There were always cases where the audience knew about something and two characters had different perspectives and it was kind of going back and forth. And this was just a great scene adding on to an example of that. But yeah, like you said, Leonard goes, "Hey, Sheldon, want to catch me up again?" And then we go forward to the school, and Sheldon is in Gablehauser's office, and he's complaining, and he makes it sound really, really formal and important at first, and then Gablehauser's like, "Winkle, what colorful name did you call him this time?"
Like they've done it 1,000 times.
And she's like, "Dumbass, right? Dumbass.
Dr. Dumbass.
Dr. Dumbass." And she's sitting there with a smile. I love it.
Yeah, I'm proud of it.
And apparently they've gotten into a fight because she was supposed to use some equipment, and Sheldon has made up a pamphlet and signed up for every day for the next 6 months, so nobody else can use that computer equipment. And so it's not even about being called a dumbass. It's about who has the right to the equipment. And in the middle of this, Penny calls, right? Penny calls Sheldon, and he doesn't answer. So Penny somehow gets Gablehauser's number.
You know what? When you gotta figure your shit out, Penny is quite resourceful.
She's dedicated. I respect that. And
I also love that like they're bickering like siblings, and Gablehauser's like the father that kind of just like, "Oh, this crap again." Where how he just like brushes over them and everything is like, "Dr. Cooper, Dr. Winkle apologizes," and they're like, "No, I don't."
No, I don't. No, she doesn't. And I actually get one point like Sheldon here too. I went ahead just a little bit, but for poor comebacks. Because she goes, "Don't you want to get that? It might be your acceptance for the Nobel Dumbass Prize of the Year, right?"
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't even be nominated.
You wouldn't even. Even Gablehauser looks at him like, "No." You wouldn't even be nominated. Like after he says it, he knows too. He's like,
like dang.
And that kind of comes up again too. He tries coming up with a comeback later, and he's like, "I'm too tired for this."
Yeah.
So good point for him. And the scene ends with Shelley saying, "I'm not getting the computer, am I?" So he's realized he's lost this battle.
Yep.
We go back to the apartment, and Shelley is asking Leonard for help. Like, "What do I do?" And he's like, "Just be honest with her," right? He's like, I've made my Facebook status, "Penny, stop talking to me," basically.
Yeah. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do now.
I don't know what to do. And he ends it with saying, "I'm going to become very difficult to live with. He's like, oh, so things were good up till now.
So this was happy fun, Sheldon?
Happy fun, Sheldon. And so he goes in to talk to Penny, and she's like, I'm busy, right? And he's like, shouldn't you be at work? And she's like, I don't work on Mondays. It's Thursday.
How she kept her job throughout this is amazing.
Right? She must be pretty good at it or something.
Or they're shorthanded.
Very shorthanded. That happens too.
Well, I do like that you're starting to see the decline of Penny's health and well-being.
Yeah.
She's already been in pajamas. She has Cheetos in her hair.
And she's just like, oh, thanks, and eats it.
Yep.
I love that. So it's great because as put together, as beautiful as she seems, like she can quickly deteriorate like any of the characters in the show, right?
Yep.
And I also like that she's able to say AFK this time to also further her deterioration, that she's gone from, what's that mean? Oh, I see. To being like AFK.
Yeah. What? Princess Penelope AFK.
Okay. And
like, leave me alone.
Leave me alone. You got a Cheeto in your hair. Thanks.
Well, is this a good time to dive into video game addiction?
I think so, because he's talking about, like, good people start gaming and get addicted to it and lose themselves. So I think this is where...
Yeah, Leonard makes a comment that people see gaming as a means of gaining a sense of false accomplishment. Which I totally get. Like sometimes when I crush a game and I feel great about it, but then I realize, well, that didn't really accomplish anything in my life. It didn't really further anything. I just kind of beat it and no one cares. Yeah. I still remember being so proud of when I was playing Final Fantasy VIII that I beat one of the weapons, which is the hardest boss in the game. It's harder than the actual boss himself and everything like that. And I remember being so proud, and I remember telling people about it, and they're just like, that's cool.
I think there's something to be said about that too, with going into, what's the word, not narcissism, but hedonism, just being questioning of the human condition and being alive and purpose in life, that as dumb as we can feel to say oh, there was no point to feel good about playing a game, honestly, we could feel dumb about any accomplishment we have in life. We can break it down to a point where we feel dumb. And I think that gets us something that if any of these characters write a paper on some string theory aspect, will anybody really care? Will it save any lives? And even it does. We can take it a step further. I mean, talk about Kevlar and bulletproof vests, that, okay, at the end of the day, the sun's going to blow up and we're all going to burn up. Everybody's going to die. It doesn't matter if we have scientific accomplishments. And so really, if we're feeling proud over a video game or an accomplishment, we should just be happy to be alive and happy about something.
Yeah, it's a really good point, that people should find the happiness in just any way that they can.
I'm big on this because people take with artwork, what's the point of artwork? It doesn't really help anything. And I think it's Neil Gaiman who says something like, if I'm able to get somebody to take an adventure from their life for a little bit and feel better about themselves, I think that's one of the most noble causes that we can do as humans. And so, I get really in depth on this conversation over what matters in life and what doesn't, because so many people will crap on art and literature and music, saying there's really no point to that. It's not saving lives, but it is. And if it makes people feel good, then it makes them feel good.
Yeah, I think I was actually just talking to Christina about this. I think people don't really appreciate mental health. Mm-hmm. Or even really consider it a lot. I know it's becoming a lot more mainstream now to take care of your mental health, because people are finally realizing that your brain and your everything that's going on with you mentally is just like a muscle.
Yeah.
It's just like you go to the gym to work on your body and stay healthy. You need to stay on top of your mental health. That's why it's great for people to find little moments of happiness, whether it's a piece of art, it's a music. So there technically is a point to it because it's going to help your mental health. And that's kind of like, I find that in a lot of podcasts. And that's kind of like why I started this podcast too, was because, well, one, I wanted to do a Big Bang Theory one, and I wanted a rewatch on Big Bang, but I also am hoping that this could kind of shed light on other people's lives, bring them happiness, bring them like a good laugh, a little bit of education. That's actually why I wanted this to be more educational. That's actually why we're going into the IQ points.
Yeah, mixing it up so it's not the same thing day in and day out, and having something to look forward to or listen to. Yeah, for me, it's talking with friends, talking with you. Like, that's a great little thing that makes me feel better about my week. That and the 5-star reviews.
Yeah. Chasing those 5 stars.
Yeah, all the
way. It fuels us.
Yes.
It helps me battle the rest of the week.
The rest of the week. Mondays.
Tomorrow's Monday. It's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough one.
But yeah, I think I get defensive when people say like, "Oh, video games are meaningless." But when you start giving up your other parts of life or letting people down, I do believe that's where the addiction comes in and health becomes important. I'm thinking of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They had a very similar episode where the gang gets involved in it's more of a like Clash of Clans type game, but like the character who is made fun of the most is the best one at the game, Charlie. Have you seen that episode?
I watched it. So they're on like season 15 now. I think I got to season 9, and then I got to a point where I caught up to it, and then watching weekly, you just kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
So I have not watched anything beyond season 9. I think the last episode that I saw was the snowboarding, or it was a skiing one.
I love that one.
That one was so great.
My dad's like, I thought that one was kind of raunchy. I'm like, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I think that's the point. It was a parody of 80s skiing movies.
Yeah, those teen ski movies or whatever. Yeah,
reminds me of South Park too.
Yeah, there was that one, right? Where French fries.
Dorsh.
Dorsh. I bet I can ski better than you, Darsh. I bet you can too. I'm still learning.
Pizza, French fry. Pizza, French fry.
But yeah, in this episode of Always Sunny, they go, when I'm doing better in the game, it makes me feel like I'm doing better in real life. And so they start like doing favors for Charlie in real life to help, so that he can help them in the game, because he's so powerful in the game that they start running errands for him and making him food.
That's such a great show. They're so talented. Like we talked about this a lot. Mythic Quest. It's a Charlie Day and Rob McElhenney show. And that's like by far one of my favorite shows of all time. I still watch that over and over again.
Did you end up catching up on it?
Yeah, I'm all up to date. It's so beautiful and it's so funny, and like it's very far-fetched, but it's very grounded at the same time. It's really comical, but it pulls at your heart at the same time.
It's got a great balance, yeah.
Season 3 was so good. I have a couple complaints about it, but like we could talk about that elsewhere. But like that last episode where the two main characters were having that heart-to-heart was just so like, oh my god. Like you really know how to pull at your heart.
And just building up their relationship. And you mentioned it's like 30 Rock, and I still need to watch that, but it's such a great platonic relationship. Yeah.
It's like they love each other and they acknowledge it, but it's nothing romantic. It's one of those things that they just need each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like we balance each other. We hate each other, we get into a fight, but we always come back.
And we make it work because we
Yeah.
need each other to make it work, right?
Yeah, I just love that part where he's like, I love you, and you love me, and everything else in between is semantics. And the look on her face where she kind of realizes it too.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of draws back into comedy where she's like, I love you too. And he's like, yeah, I already covered that. You know what? Let me do the speeches.
I like too that in the episode, the past episode, right? They actually call him Ian, and his mom's been calling Ian the whole time, and so that's what he's picked up, Ian.
Yeah, like he doesn't want to be like his dad.
Ian.
Yeah.
Okay, we can
But
get.
yeah,
sorry. Such a great show. I love talking.
All right, sorry.
Did you have something to add to the addiction
video? I actually have a lot.
Go for it. I talked my part. That was my part.
So technically, we stayed on track because Mythic Quest is about a video game.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's all the same thing.
All right, let's talk video game addiction. So I found this on AmericanAddictionCenters.org and verywellmind.com. Research studies show that 1 to 16% of video gamers meet the criteria for addiction. However, the official definition of video game addiction varies across different organizations. Considering this, it's easy to be confused about whether you or someone else's gaming habits falls into the average or heavy ranges. As with all addictions, it's important when considering the possibility of video game addiction to not simply consider the amount of time spent gaming, but also the function it is serving to the individual. To be an addiction, it must negatively affect the user's life. So video game addiction is not currently recognized as an addictive disorder in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which is the definitive guide to psychiatric illness. But an obsessive preoccupation with games at the expense of real-life activities or obligations shares some of the characteristics of addictive behavior. Well, how can someone tell when gaming has stopped being entertainment and become an addiction? Here are a few warning signs. Watch out for poor performance at school or work, or household responsibilities as a result of a preoccupation with gaming, neglect of other hobbies or friendships, a decline in personal hygiene or grooming. Hello, Penny.
Penny's got that.
Inability to set limits on how much time is spent gaming, signs of irritability, anxiety, or anger when forced to stop gaming or even brief periods of time, the need to spend more time playing games or to play more intensely in order to get the same level of enjoyment, symptoms of physical or psychological withdrawal, such as loss of appetite, sleeplessness, agitation, or emotional outbursts if the game is taken away. And using video games as a way to escape stressful situations at work or school or conflicts at home. So video game addiction or video game overuse is seen most commonly in players of massive multiplayer online role-playing games, which Age of Conan is.
Yeah.
It is an MMORPG. So MMORPGs make up 25% of gaming revenue worldwide. These games hold many attractions for gamers. They're interactive, social, competitive, and happen in real time. Research indicates that MMORPGs are more addictive in nature. As a result, they tend to have greater negative impacts on physical health, sleep habits, and academic performance. But not all research agree that video gaming is harmful or addictive activity. Many people, including parents, believe that video games expand the imagination, give children the opportunity to work collaboratively, and sharpen cognitive skills. Yet, when young people spend most of their time playing video games at the expense of schoolwork, physical exercise, family events, or social activities, the benefits of gaming seem less certain. Today, video game addiction has been recognized as a process addiction similar to compulsive gambling, in which the rush of winning becomes the primary motivation for playing. However, this line of thought is controversial because, unlike gambling, there are no financial stakes or material losses involved with video gaming. Which kind of like I kind of disagree with, because nowadays gaming has a lot more in purchase
That's
things where you
true.
could buy a lot of things where if you want this weapon, you need to pay for this, or if you're paying for like a trade, you hop on eBay and you buy some stuff.
And haven't there
We
been like
actually
some like legal issues with like loot boxes where you're buying like a box that you don't even know what you're getting? And
yeah.
so it's like you could get a skin or you could get a weapon, and people keep buying these hoping for a certain weapon or whatever.
Yeah, it is technically a gamble because you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what you're going to get.
I did that with
Uh,
Destiny one time. I wasn't too much. I think it was like 40 or $50, but I'm like, I want this. What are they, like bicycles that you get? The
the
motopads?
the motorcycle thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like I wanted a specific one. It like shoots snow out, and I said, I will pay what you want me to pay to get this, and I did. And I was embarrassed, but I have a motorcycle that shoots snow now. And
Yeah. Well, researchers suggest that the process of playing and winning these games may trigger a release of dopamine, a brain chemical that elevates mood and provides a rush of energy. Dopamine is the same neurotransmitter involved in other addictive activities, such as alcohol or drug abuse. And then this kind of goes into what we were talking about flow, that it's not necessarily addiction, that it's something else. So there was an article in Parenting Science that all of this is not an addictive response, but a psychological phenomenon called, in quote, flow. Flow takes place when an individual becomes so immersed in an activity that they lose track of time. Any engaging activity, even work or school projects, can induce a sense of flow once a person is caught up in the process. So I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I think that is a thing. I think you and I, since we aren't necessarily addicted to games, that you and I get caught up in the flow.
yeah.
But there are a lot of people out there that are addicted.
I think and the word I was searching for this whole time was obligations. When you start missing out on your social obligations to friends, family, yourself, when you stop eating your own vegetables, uh, that's when I would say it branches over from flow to addiction. Man, but this is all pretty new because, like you said, it's not in the DSM, right? The manual with all
Yeah,
the
it's not in that like official. It's not officially recognized.
Yeah, so it's still learning a lot about it.
But I feel like people can be addicted to anything.
That's true. If it gives you a psychological euphoria or causes you to hyper focus on it for too long to the point where it's becoming damaging to other relationships.
Yeah. Well, I started looking into the dark side of video gaming addiction.
Ooh.
I didn't dive too into this because it may not be. I don't want to give people nightmare fuel. So it's kind of like, I'll just say, if you want to look it up, it's on therichest.com. And it's called like the craziest video game addiction stories. And most of the situations I feel like aren't necessarily the cause of video games.
Yeah.
It likely stems from a previous psychological issue. But then again, I'm not a psychologist, so what do I know? The article had 15. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say that everything I've read about violence and video games causing violence is the notion that video games don't cause violence, that it can be seen as a warning sign of violence, but the violence is caused by something else. And usually there's other warning signs as well, but video games are not the cause of it. Yeah,
exactly. So if you're interested, you can check out this article. There are 15 horror stories about just how video games involved in some sort of accidental death, murder, or suicide.
Dun, dun.
But then again, like I said earlier, like many of these stories revolve around people that it seems like they needed help or have some sort of mental disorder.
I don't know. Any of those have to do with Mario Party? Those drive me pretty mad.
No, there was one on StarCraft.
Oh.
There was that famous story that we heard like long ago. So yeah, people can be a little crazy.
That's
but
fair.
You know what? I'm going to end this on a light note, that there is a very light side of video gaming. So, oddly enough, I found this article on Geico.com.
Oh.
But I found other articles that like kind of
Backed it
say
up.
the exact same thing.
It wasn't just one lizard. It was a few.
It was a group of geckos.
It was a group of geckos.
And a handful of crickets. So all of this says that it has been backed by research. And here are the benefits of video games for kids and adults. It improves manual dexterity. In a study involving surgeons, those who played video games performed advanced procedures with 37% less mistakes.
How do they even judge that at 37? Like,
I don't know.
Wow.
I guess the doctors that fucked up didn't play video games.
So like, if I'm going in for a surgery, do you play video games? Nope. Get out. You're out.
You're done.
Get me somebody who plays Pac-Man. You know, Pac-Man, you can't touch me. I don't know.
You can handle me the way you handle those controls.
Yeah.
Well, there's also increased brain's gray matter. Studies show that increased gray matter is associated with muscle control, memories, perception, and spatial negativity. Gamers may also have better social skills. So, research involving children found those that played more video games were more likely to have good social skills, perform better academically, and have built better relationships with other students because of the social and collaborative component to some types of games. Gamers are better problem solvers. Many games require you to solve puzzles and think quickly on your feet, skills that can be translated to the real world. Video games can improve vision, as long as you're not staring at the screen for 10 hours straight, or have your screen like 2 feet away. But students who played first-person shooters, Call of Duty, showed they were able to train their brains to see smaller details through clutter because they had improved spatial resolution.
Oh.
Then there are mental health benefits. Studies have shown that some video games can boost mood and make for better heart rhythms, a sign that they may also relieve stress. It's also a fun way to get tricked into learning. Today, many video games incorporate world history, cooking, politics, chemistry, architecture, and other topics you may not have been exposed to in school. And also, lastly, video games can inspire you to be more persistent. So when you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. Sorry, wrong podcast. In video games, you either win or you keep trying to learn from your mistakes as you progress until you reach the goal. Researchers and educators argue that video games can teach people to be more confident and to work towards their goals, treating each misstep as just another learning opportunity. So video games aren't all bad.
Those the road games I'm talking about, that you die every like 5 minutes. It's so irritating, but you just get back on that horse and try again.
Yep. Try and try.
Try and try.
Yeah. Love video games. I am a big proponent of like they can be good, just like TV. I know a lot of people shit on TV and they're like say, "Oh, it's the idiot box," but it really just depends what you're watching.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with radio, music, or I take it a step further and say that how much you're doing, everything in moderation, and that if it's something that brings you joy, then that's the most we can hope for out of life. And don't let people make fun of you for it, right? Or make you feel bad.
Yeah. Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. Gamers gonna game.
Cricket's gonna cricket.
Yeah. Chirp, chirp, bitches.
Chirp, chirp, motherfucker.
We get into the cafeteria again, and this is where Sheldon's sleeping. And yeah, Leonard says Penny's been keeping him up all night, and Howard says, me too, but probably for different reasons.
Oh, Howard.
Howard. And then they start talking about Penny's addiction and wake Sheldon up, and he yells, danger, danger.
Yeah.
Again with that robot stance. And Winkle comes in, and Sheldon's too tired to fight her on this. So when she says dumbass, he's just like, whatever. But I like this, and we get 1 point for me being like Winkle because she says it's all about sex. Penny just needs to get some action. And I believe that everything is about sex. And I actually did a little IQ point on this. So I don't know if it's a full IQ point, but it's a little one. Oscar Wilde, he's the author of The Picture of Dorian Gray, where Dorian Gray doesn't get older, doesn't get sick, doesn't get hurt, and his picture basically takes all the abuse that he takes in real life. It gets older for him. So Oscar Wilde has a sentence that's attributed to him. Everything in the world is about sex except sex. Sex is about power. And I get criticized a lot because I apply a lot of things to sex, and I stand by everything is about sex. And you know, this I found a great response on Quora.com. I looked into some other thoughts, but it's basically this understanding of everything, you know, getting back into what is the point of life, and at the end of the day, procreation and survival is the goal of life. And technically, even if we don't want to procreate, there's part of our brain that has evolved to that is the point of life. And so the notion of why do we write a book? I mean, there's a band called Say Anything that has a line in one of the songs that he attributes to the success of the album to the amount of sex he's going to have. And I think
more like success.
Success, exactly. Life is about success. And I think that's what it comes down to. And the notion is when it actually comes down to having sexual intercourse, though, that is about power, to be able to demonstrate your power upon somebody or your power within a relationship, and even the act itself. You know, a lot of stuff I was looking at, like finding a position, who's on top, who's the receiver, who's taking action, who's the initiator. Even later on, he asks Penny, like, do you like to initiate? Like, the actual act is a power play. But everything else that we do in society is about trying to have sex or look successful to have sex in some way, shape, or form. And I thought about this. At the end of the day, we get something like, well, maybe people do things just on their own accord. That maybe the reason the way we dress, or that we write a book or a piece of art just to write the piece of art, you know, that's arguable. And my first thought was Georgia O'Keeffe, who is known as an isolated recluse. But she was a painter, and you know what she was known for painting?
Success.
Pretty much flowers that look like vaginas.
Oh.
And she said they're not vaginas, and everybody else is kind of stepping back saying they kind of look like vaginas. So, you know, that was my first thought on a recluse doing things just because she wanted to. And
it reminds me of How I Met Your Mother. The architect whose building looked like a giant penis.
Yes, exactly. So I agree with Winkle, and I think that some of this is subjective, but you know, in terms of psychoanalyzing everything, I agree with her that it comes down to sex, and that Penny probably needed to get some action. I also like pointing out that where was it? They say that Winkle is the best one, or Sheldon does, that she is the best one to trust on this based on her sluttiness. and
it's a badge of honor for her.
I like that it's a badge of honor for her, because this is a term that, like, I don't know, I see it as a complete way of downgrading women or anybody who's sexually promiscuous. And again, if everything's about sex and everybody's there on some level, and it's just basically criticizing people because you want to criticize them on something that's very human. And I like that she takes it as a badge of success. And I'm like, Sheldon, that's kind of a shitty thing to say.
Yeah.
But then he outdoes himself by turning around to ask the guy behind him if he would like to be in a sexual relationship.
Yep, not knowing what's going on.
They have to point out his error to him later.
Yeah. What a dumbass.
But apparently this was, I looked it up. His name's Tyler John Olson, and he's been in some action movies, some Bruce Willis movies that look like. Not main roles, but some subparts, and so I think I've seen his face, but definitely take a look for him on IMDb, because his IMDb picture, he has a huge beard, and it's looks like you ever see The Giver? Yeah, he looks like The Giver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like completely different. I'm like,
so he aged 50 years too?
Yeah, exactly. It's like he put on the beard and he's 50 years older, and he has all the experiences.
You know what? That's what facial hair does. Like, if you, like, a lot of guys, if they shave, they definitely look 15, 20 years younger.
But I want
Dude, if you shaved, you'd look like you're 13.
I get started being ID'd again.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I love that scene where he's just like, well, can I get your number? And the guy writes his number on, like, Sheldon's hand, right?
He looks him up and down. He checks him out first. Like, are you worth my time? Yeah, okay.
Okay. Sheldon's getting some. So it goes back to Penny's apartment, and Penny's playing a game, and she lets out a huge belch, right? And
that girl is so far down the rabbit hole.
She's got stains on her shirt. Although I made a note somewhere in here that I love her pajama pants. They're like really,
it's like the capri pants.
Yeah, they're like capri,
very loose capri pants. Yeah.
And I actually have a pair that aren't quite that baggy, but I have them, and girls try to take them from me. I have had friends, never guys who've seen them, but girls who have seen them, and they're like, I like these. Can I have them? I'm like, no, these are mine. So it's been really weird that like I see and respect those pants, and apparently they're really popular, but guys just have not experienced them yet.
I kind of experienced something like that for my yard work pants.
Yeah.
So I unintentionally came across this, where I do a lot of yard work in the summertime at my old house, like years ago.
Yeah.
And it was during the summer, and I was wearing like these really baggy jeans, because it's like, you know what, my old jeans, I'm not gonna wear them out in public, so I'm just gonna wear them like as I'm doing yard work.
They're gonna get stained, they're gonna get dirty.
And one day, it was just a blistering hot day that I was like doing some yard work. I was pruning some trees, pulling some weeds and everything. I was like, I am so hot. What the hell? So I took some scissors and I just fashioned them into shorts, but I did it around the ankle area, like the shin area.
You did it tastefully.
Just to kind of get a little ventilation and everything like that. Yeah. And that became my yard work pants until, well, she's my wife now, but my fiance, she just found a way to throw them away.
Yeah. I've had a pair of cargo pants here and there with that somehow find their way in the garbage.
Yep. But they were so great because it's like, okay, the knees are still there, so I can get down on the ground and everything like that. So I can, like, pull weeds and everything like that. But there's ventilation.
And when
This is so great.
you're working late and the sun starts going down, you stay a little warm because it gets a little colder, right?
Yeah.
That's very thoughtful.
I have gone out in public in them.
I would never judge you for your cutoffs.
I've gone to a hardware store in that because, when you're doing some yard work and you realize you need to go to the hardware store, it's like, dude, I'm not going to stop and change. I'm just going to go now.
Just imagine like going in and all the other guys are wearing the same pants.
Yes!
I'm with my own people.
All right, back to the Big Bang Theory.
We have Sheldon setting up her internet dating profile, and she turns out to be a big old 5 because she likes to initiate. And I like that he tells her that it's for
extra
the
content.
DLC, right? Which didn't come out till 2020, you said. So
oh yeah, the added content.
It's for the added content. Yeah, like 12 years later.
Yep. I love, like, one laugh out loud moment that I loved was she's playing so aggressively and then she forgets to take her potion and then Sheldon's like, take a potion.
Take a potion.
Like, thanks. Like, oh yeah, thanks.
It's like he can't not help her either. Like he doesn't even have that within his programming. He has to, like, on the side he's still helping.
Yeah.
And so Leonard comes home and there's a random guy sitting on the sofa. And Sheldon's like, this is Tom. And he gets him some water. Leonard's like, do we have to talk about your mistake in the cafeteria again? And it turns out that, he's basically setting him up for a date with Penny. And I did a little research into, he says that he's afraid that the science of dating is heuristic algorithms or hookum. And this is my failed IQ point of the day.
Okay. I actually did turn this into an IQ point too.
Right, so what I got was algorithm at the basic definition is a process set of rules. Heuristic is basically stating good enough or without complete information, trying to define a set of rules that creates an outcome or a solution that works for the here and now. And I guess that would make sense for a dating website because you can't possibly know everything about an individual. You have to ask some kind of pointed questions and get a general gist of somebody and try to associate how those interact with somebody else without knowing the full picture, the full background. And I guess I didn't know the word hookum means nonsense and melodramatic.
I kind of just picked that up based off context, I guess.
That's fair. I thought he was saying like a hookum algorithm, and so I thought it was another algorithm structure. But
so you tried to look
I'm like, this isn't making sense. Well, it's nonsense. Ha.
He was actually trying to say hookah, as in you do your science on the whiteboard as you smoke a hookah.
Exactly. And that's not what he meant at all. So what'd you get for my failed efforts?
Well, it's like, okay, so piggybacking off what you were saying about algorithms and everything like that, I did try to look at the main online dating websites about their algorithms. Yeah. Because every website swears by our algorithm is better, blah, blah, blah.
That's the true love one.
But, of course, no company is willing to talk about their algorithm because that's their bread and butter. That's like how they make their money. So I couldn't pinpoint like what Tinder or OkCupid or anything does like that because they just won't talk about it, which I get it. So in a sense, this is a science. So online dating is a science, but not the science that you think. It's more of a social science.
The hookum science.
That's why Sheldon does not respect it at all.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more about market research and just kind of like questionnaires and everything like that and matching based off the questionnaire and everything. So it's not necessarily about a science. Most of these questionnaires are multiple choices. So they kind of just match you based off what you put on that questionnaire. So I found this on New York Times and NBC News that there are some, in quote, science-backed ways to improve your dating profile. So anybody that is new to the online dating world, if you want to bulk up your online profile, this is how you do it. According to them, it is research-backed and science-approved. So the first thing you want to do is you want to pick your apps wisely. So every app, if you actually do a little bit of research, is meant for a different end goal. So Tinder, that's about sex. That's just about hooking up.
Yeah, I found that out. I went on a Tinder date one time, and realized after the date that it was really awkward because I wasn't there for sex, and yeah, it got weird. She's like, so I'm moving like over the weekend. I'm like, why are you on a date if you're moving?
So why are you here?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Oops.
Yep. If you're more serious, do things more like eHarmony or something like that. Success begins with a good username. So men are drawn to physical traits, like cutie, if cutie is in the name. And women prefer ones that indicate intelligence, like cultured. You could be, I could be cutie Rob, and you could be cultured Ryan.
They're going to say like,
and apparently we'll do well.
Pappy or dad. Like what? That's
well, both sexes respond well to playful names and shy away from ones with a negative connotation. Usernames that begin with letters from the first half of the alphabet do better than the latter half, because human beings have a tendency to give things at the top of a pile more value.
wow.
And content should be divided between 70 and 30% between personal information and a description of your ideal partner. So that's actually been a big issue amongst all failed profiles, is that people are they constantly talk about themselves. I like this. I do this. I am this. Whereas they need to actually sprinkle in about 30% of what they're looking for. I'm looking for someone that does this. I'm looking for someone that is like this. So it needs to, and your profile needs to be likable with a touch of humor. And get to the point. Because no one wants to read a 6-page biography. Just get to the point, especially in today's age with short attention spans. You just got to get to the point. And your profile picture should showcase yourself in the center of a group and smiling, because you want to have a nice smile and you want to prove that you have friends. And that's how you bulk up your online dating.
You gotta show you're a big old 5.
Yep. But that's what I got on online dating.
Interesting. That 70-30 is interesting. I hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah, but I actually cross-checked that amongst multiple websites and everything, and the 70-30 thing on your personal information and description of the ideal partner it's like a real thing, which makes sense, because it's like, well, as I'm looking at profiles, it's like, what are you looking for? Am I like, yeah, you're interested in these things, but for all I know, you're looking for the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's like, I want someone that challenges me. I want someone, like, I love comic books, but I want someone that likes science, because I don't need someone that talks comic books all the time.
You don't need a clone of Rob. You need a Ryan.
Exactly. I need a cutie Ryan.
Exactly. Penny walks in and completely ignores Tom. And she's looking even worse. I don't know how they did it, but she's looking even worse. And she leaves, and Tom's like, I can't do this. She didn't look anything like her picture. And Leonard says they never do.
It made me wonder if Leonard does a lot of online dating, and if he knows that.
I'm doing a point with Leonard here, because they never do. Is, I did my own share of online dating. And I think the worst, I don't even know if I told you this, I was online dating and I was waiting for a date at one time, and a girl, I had no idea who she was, came up to me and she's like, "Are you Jim?" I'm like, "No, I'm Ryan." And she's like, and like proceeded to walk around and look at people in the place. And I don't know if she was waiting for a date or waiting for somebody who gave her a bad picture. But I did get the impression that she was coming up to me because I kind of look like him, but maybe not like the picture itself. So she thought I was playing the old Photoshop game. But yeah, I met my date and we had a good time, but didn't work out. But that girl.
Wait, so you went out with the girl that called you Jim?
No, it was a different girl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? And we lived happily ever after. She still calls me Jim.
I'm Jim now.
This is my life now. I am Jim.
I'm Jim. Please don't tell her, Rob. Please. Yeah. I'm Jim now.
Yeah, that's happened to me once. I remember that there was a really, for the most part, when I was online dating, they looked like their picture. But there was one in particular, which we actually did go out like a handful of times because we got along really well. But like, she looked nothing like her picture. I was kind of just like... And then later on, like after the first date, I went home and hopped on her profile. I was like just staring at the picture. I was like, this doesn't look like her at all. But we had a good time, so I guess I'll keep going out with her.
See where this goes. But how did she make that happen? What?
It wasn't Christina.
All right, so yeah, it ends. The credits are rolling, and Penny's still online, and Howard comes up and hits on her. And this is where
that's how you know you hit rock bottom.
She's like, "Yeah, I'll go on a date with you," and she's like, "I need help."
Yep, Sir Howard of Wolowitz.
You want to go get some mead with me? Sure, why not? No.
Oh my god.
And that's
it. The episode.
That was the episode.
Great episode.
That was fun.
So relatable with like the gaming and everything like that.
And the dating and the it's great.
All right, so what's your tally at?
Let's see.
I'm going to count how many IQ points we had.
28, not like Sheldon, 30 like Sheldon. And I honestly think one of these, or at least two of these, could have been flip-flop, but it had Penny doing it, so I counted it as Penny. So I went up a little bit, but I'm still Sheldon right now.
And with our powers combined, we had 8 IQ points.
Awesome.
These were really good ones, too.
I enjoyed
them. I actually really liked this one.
Yeah. I like where addiction. I failed, you picked me up, and where I failed, you picked...
Yeah, we did it. Teamwork makes a dream work.
Teamwork.
Yeah, so it's a strong season 2 so far.
Yes, I'm enjoying it. And having more Leslie Winkle, she's always a win.
Yep.
Dumbass.
Any last minute things?
That's all I have.
So everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Please remember to leave a review. Follow us on Instagram at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. And shoot us a message at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. We will see you next time when we talk about Season 2, Episode 4, The Griffin Equivalency.
See you then.
Thanks for listening. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD necessary. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl, and our logo is by John Kim. Thanks for listening.
I think
we're like success.
Success, exactly. Life is